The year is 1956. Godzilla Raids Again didn't perform nearly as well as the original Godzilla did at the Japanese box office. So much like the monster's fate at the end of the film, Godzilla was put on ice for a few years. Be that as it may, Toho Studios still wanted to continue making giant monster films and began brainstorming for new ideas. Inspired by the death of Captain Thomas Mantell of the Kentucky Air National Guard, who crashed his plane while chasing a UFO in 1948, novelist Ken Kuronomura wrote the original story for Toho's next venture in the kaiju genre. With added writing contributions from Takashi Kimura and Takeo Murata, the script would be finalized for Giant Monster of the Sky, Rodan, Toho's first kaiju film in full color. The film takes place on the island of Kyouichiro, where a series of brutal murders are happening in the coal mines below the town of Kitamatsu. Authorities are having trouble keeping up with the rising death toll when it is revealed that giant prehistoric dragonfly larvae named Meganulon, which were inspired by the 1954 film Them, are responsible for slaughtering the miners. During an attempt to kill the creatures, an earthquake causes the mine to cave in, leaving main character Shigeru Kawamura trapped in a giant underground cavern. After the incident, Shigeru is found unconscious outside of the mine, having suffered from amnesia. During recovery, he is brought back by the sight of birds hatching, giving him a vivid flashback where he witnesses a giant pteranodon-like creature hatching from its egg. It is revealed that the Meganulon were merely food for an even larger creature. Rodan breaks free from the cavern and begins terrorizing multiple countries along the Far East, where the film snowballs into a full-blown sequence of destruction in the city of Fukuoka. Rodan is especially unique in its story structure. Told from a civilian point of view, the film begins as a murder thriller, disrupting the quaint and intimate setting of Kitamatsu. Then turns into a creature feature with the introduction of Meganulon and ramps all the way up into full-blown chaos once Rodan makes an entrance. Then, just when you think things can't get any worse, another Rodan shows up to join the fray as well. Even today, this story formula feels pretty fresh for the genre and is complemented well by performances from Kenji Sahara, Yumi Shirakawa, and Akihiko Hirata. Sahara took his character's amnesia seriously by studying the causes of the condition and practiced making his eyes go out of focus. Director Ishiro Honda took a liking to the actor and would cast him in many films in the following years. Speaking of Ishiro Honda, he does an excellent job at telling the story of Rodan in a dark and serious manner. Where many monster films from the 1950s are too serious for their own good, the direction for Rodan is earnest and convincing, this time with an emphasis on grief and the lives lost in the wake of the monsters. While it isn't as rich in its themes as Gojira, for example, it is theorized in the film that Rodan's existence is a repercussion of atomic testing that caused shifts in the Earth's crusts, creating openings and long-forgotten crevices and caves, incubating the egg the monster hatches from. It could also be said that Rodan's supersonic speed and the destruction that it causes is reminiscent to the shockwave of an atomic bomb. But with that said, the film doesn't really need an underlying theme to drive it forward, because the story is simply that good. Alongside the excellent writing and direction, special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya excels even further in his work. The miniature sets in Rodan are immaculate, many of which were real locations meticulously rebuilt for the film. And when compared to the real-life counterparts, it's hard to tell the difference at first glance. During scenes of destruction, you can spot people fleeing behind windows or bodies being crushed beneath the shrapnel of a totaled vehicle. The attention to detail is simply unmatched, and the effects on display are without a doubt some of the best in this era of tokusatsu. It must be said that even though this film is over 60 years old, the Rodan suit used here is still often argued to be the best put on film. While flying props can look a little stiff at times, the often dangerous and harrowing stunt work by Haruo Nakajima brings the monster to life flawlessly. Sporting a sleek and sinister design, Rodan is a kaiju you do not want to fuck with. Enhancing the performances and visuals, composer Akira Ifukube returns with a truly brooding and eerie score. Ifukube does an excellent job at emphasizing the tone of each moment in the film, whether it be the claustrophobic scenes below the mines, the energetic dogfights in the sky with Rodan and fighter jets, or the surprisingly tragic ending, where after one Rodan is shot down during the eruption of Mount Aso, the other attempts to rescue it, and both end up dying together. Despite all of the destruction caused by the two Rodans, it's hard not to feel sympathy for the monsters in the end, who were unearthed by the hubris of mankind and only trying to survive in a world in which they don't belong. For me, it's this kind of dynamic that sets Rodan and many other Japanese kaiju films in their own tier. While monster movies in the West oftentimes have this great white hunter mentality attached to them, I tend to prefer when the mayhem caused by the monster teaches a valuable lesson. The famous Honda quote applies here perfectly. Monsters are tragic beings. They are born too tall, too strong, too heavy. They are not evil by choice. That is their tragedy. Rodan is a film that further cemented Toho's legitimacy in the kaiju film genre, and would set the stage for many other movie monsters that would end up finding their way into the Godzilla franchise, resulting in a sort of cinematic universe. One of the best things about the early years of tokusatsu was the variety each film had to offer, and Rodan is a perfect example of that, making him one of the most iconic kaiju ever put on screen. For all things giant monsters and Japanese science fiction, subscribe and stay tuned to Black Hole Planet.